Okay, thank you, my friend. I really appreciate that. Hi, everybody. Welcome. As you know, there is my good friend Emmett Han. I see you up there, Emmett. Hi, buddy.
Yes, sir. How are you
Hopefully
doing?
got Richard Marshall and Peter Murphy on here as well. Hopefully their pictures are going to pop up on the screen here in just a second. And I will go ahead and introduce you to our guests and tell you a little bit about what we're doing. Yes, I have crossed over that finish line. I now have to wear the glasses like everybody else to be able to read this stuff. Emmett, stop laughing at me. So as you all know, I'm one of the owners of Speed Sport, and this was our October 2021 issue right here. And the title said, Growth Spurt, Dirt Track Racing Gains Momentum. And this is a fantastic picture that one of our journalists at Speed Sport, Adam Fenwick, took of the World Finals at the dirt track at Charlotte Motor Speedway. This was the 2020 dirt track week there. And you can see the packed crowd, the huge field of cars, the fireworks, the pyro, the whole thing gives you a great indication of just where exactly dirt track racing is going these days. So let me introduce you to our guests, and we're going to talk a little bit about that today, the growth and expansion of dirt track racing and where it's headed. We're going to begin the man on the screen right here, our old friend Emmett Han. Emmett was a very successful racer himself. He became a star racing super modifieds around Oklahoma, Texas, and Kansas. He went on to become a two-time NCRA track champion or series champion, super modified champion at Oklahoma City, five-time track champ at Tulsa, and a two-time winner of the Hutchinson Nationals. When he stopped driving, he started promoting a 5-mile oval in the Tulsa area, which led him to promoting an indoor event at the Tulsa Expo Center, which ultimately became the famed Chili Bowl Nationals, the biggest and most prestigious midget event that he and longtime partner, the late Lanny Edwards, grew into a true bucket list event that all race fans need to experience. I can't highlight that enough. You really need to go to the Chili Bowl someday. He also founded the American Sprint Car Series in an effort to help reduce the cost of sprint car racing. Emmett is a member of the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and the National Midget Racing Hall of Fame. Did I get all that right, Emmett?
That's more than I can remember.
Okay. Well, let's now introduce you to another one of our guests. Is Peter Murphy on the line here as well with us?
How you doing?
There he is. Hi, Peter.
How you doing?
Good to see you, my friend. Peter is a native of Australia and a very successful and popular 410 sprint car racer. Peter won the New Zealand Sprint Car Championship, won numerous 410 sprint car races throughout California, suffered a vicious crash, which ended his driving career, began his second career as a promoter by organizing the very successful Peter Murphy Classic each year at Thunderbolt Raceway in Tulare, California, then purchased the legendary Hanford, California track at the Kings County Fairgrounds, turning the now known as Colorado Speedway into one of the best run weekly dirt tracks in the country. He has just completed the purchase of the famed Skagit Speedway in Skagit, Washington, with his partners in 55 promotions, Kevin Radine and Mike Anderson. Pretty close to spot on there, Peter?
I'm going to say spot on, mate. You're perfect.
All right, my friend. And we'll get you your didgeridoo expertise a little later on, okay? All right.
Not a problem.
And Richard Marshall, are you on, Richard?
I'm present.
There you are. Good to see you too, my friend. Richard's passion for racing began while growing up in Austin, Texas. His uncle Bob Marshall was one of the first team owners in the world of outlaws, with his cousin Bobby driving behind the wheel. A highly successful businessman in the oil and gas industry, he also owns and operates Priority Aviation. Richard has turned his business success into triumphs on the racetrack. He started as a co-owner with Ricky Stenhouse at the Chili Bowl, which led to sponsoring Jason Johnson and one of the greatest wins in the history of the Knoxville Nationals. What a magical night that was. He has been involved in numerous partnerships and sponsorships in a wide variety of open wheel dirt track racing. The most well-known is, of course, Clausen Marshall Racing, which began because of a relationship with the late Brian Clausen and his dad, Tim. Clausen Marshall Racing is an absolute powerhouse organization and a potential winner no matter which racetrack their rig shows up. How's that, Richard? Pretty clear?
That's pretty good, Ralph. Kudos.
Okay. All right. Well, I've got a whole bunch of pages of questions here, about 6, and those are just the ones for Emmett. So there's no way we're going to get through all of these. But let's start anyway. Emmett, how did the concept of the Chili Bowl actually come together?
Well, we built Creek County in 1985, and that winter we had a successful opening season, and our racers wanted to run an indoor race. And I told them, I said, everything's on a positive here. I hate to run an indoor and get things on a negative, but anyway, they talked me into it. So we ran the Tulsa Shootout. That was with go-karts, Odysseys, motorcycles, 4-wheelers, 3-wheelers. And after we got through that, I thought, we could run midgets here. And Lanny Edwards, which run the first World of Outlaws sprint car race, I called Lanny, didn't know him that well at the time, and told him that I thought we could run some midgets up there. And he knew the World of Outlaw drivers. And I said, if we can get them drivers in here, we can sell some tickets. So Lanny came up, and that's the way the Chili Bowl started. And one thing I learned from Lanny, in the early years of that, we wasn't getting a very big crowd. It was charging $15. I told Lanny, I said, Lanny, I think if we'd go down to $12, we'd get more people in here. And he said, well, you won't, but let you go ahead and do it. So we went to $12, didn't change a thing. Went back to 15 the next year, and then Lanny said, if you don't charge enough, they don't think it's a special show. So the following year, we went to $30 on a ticket. That was the first time we sold out.
Wow.
So, it's been a good run. Lanny and I have made excellent partners. I like to talk. He liked to work. And we just worked awful well together. And I sure miss him.
For those that have never been to the Chili Bowl, Emmett, can you explain a little bit about the size and the scope of the Tulsa Expo Center and how big the facility is and what you really put all under one roof every January?
Well, to give you an idea of the size of the building, the rent last year was $300,000. So that means it's a big. No, it's we advertise a quarter mile, and it would be a quarter of a mile on the outside. It's talking about Ventura Turkey Night. I said Ventura is probably the outside of the Chili Bowl would probably be the inside of Ventura out there, and that's about the size of the racetrack. But the good thing about our deal is we work real hard to have a 2-groove racetrack. And I remember we had Humpy Wheeler up as our grand marshal. He came in, went down the infield, and he just watched the heat race. He said, Emmett, there's more passing than this heat race than we have at the 500. But that's the kind of racing we got. And I tried to get AJ Ford to come up as our grand marshal. And I told AJ, I said, AJ, this is racing like we used to see 30 years ago. And he never got to make it up. But it's just an outstanding race. If you're an open wheel fan, if you come one time, you won't want to miss another one.
Yeah, it is an amazing event. The facility, you put the racetrack, you put all the merchandise vendors, you put some 300 midgets and their rigs all under one roof, and enough fans. I know every good promoter has to make it a little bit bigger than it is, but 25,000, is that a fair number just on the grandstands?
We will, you're just like a typical promoter. You're counting legs instead of heads. No, we fill it up, and we're sold out in advance. We got a waiting list, and it really seats 7,700. They're all reserved seats. Then we may have as many as 6,000 people in the pit. So we're up there around 13 to 15,000 people in the building. And you was asking about the size of the building. It's 11.5 acres. And the reason the racetrack is on the lower level, they built that for the oil show. And so they put their oil derricks down there. And that's why that lower level is about 15 feet lower. So we have the racetrack down there, trade show, and all the traders in there. And the parking, Matt does a good job. They called every one of these racers, find out how long their trailer is, how many cars they got. And that's one of the biggest jobs at the Chili Bowl and the shootout is getting them all in there.
Yeah, and it's all under one roof. It's amazing. I guess I've learned how to be a good promoter from you then when it comes to counting and promoting how many are there. And Peter, you've done a wonderful job becoming one of the top promoters in the country. You've really progressed up the ladder as a promoter from one event to one track and now to 2 racetracks, having just gotten Skagit under your banner as well. What's been the key to your growth as a promoter, Peter?
Honestly, I think the biggest thing is not trying to do what we've done in the past, to be honest. Trying to make it a little bit different. You know, I think if we keep going down the road as we do everything, we're not going to raise the bar up. We're not going to get more cars. We're not going to get more people. As Emmett has said, like and the biggest thing is we're in the entertainment business is what we are in. And a lot of us fail to see that, I think. Obviously, Emmett is under control. He knows how to do this better than anybody. And it's people like him that, you know, I want to strive to be like and create, you know, what we're doing. So it's what we do that isn't normal is basically, I think, why we have, you know, a little bit of success. So just doing things a little bit different, not out of control, different, just a little bit, just to, you know, keep people, you know, not just entertained, but just excited about what might happen.
Obviously, every race car driver thinks they know what the promoter should be doing, how they should prep the track and so forth and so on. Now you are one. Is the job what you thought it would be, or are there things that surprised you?
No, it is what it is for sure. There is a lot of experts on everything that you are doing. And the biggest thing is I know I am learning, and I do make mistakes. I end up in the work area myself more often than not, but it's not from the lack of trying something different, and I'm not afraid to try something different. But if it doesn't work, I'm not afraid to change and go again. You know, so you got to have big shoulders, evidently, and that's not a, you know, that's just how it is.
Richard, let's talk a little bit about all the different teams that Clausen Marshall Racing is currently involved in. You guys touch just about every form of dirt track racing when it comes to open wheel competition.
Yeah, we have, along with Stenhouse Junior Marshall Racing as well. 2 different organizations. I'm a common denominator with both, but Clausen Marshall started as a midget team, and we've kind of evolved into wing sprint car racing as well. And so we've been fortunate to bag a national midget championship, then also a USAC sprint car championship, and this year we just did our first wing championship with the All-Stars. So I'm proud of that organization. For a company that's 5 years old to have 3 national championships. Absolutely. Stenhouse Marshall, we've run exclusively with the World of Outlaws. So that's a little bit different kind of organization, but same sport.
How difficult is it for you to have your hands involved in so many different forms of dirt track racing these days and keep them all at the front of the field?
Well, I kind of created the problem, I guess you could say. I'm a quintessential race car fan, big fan of the promoters I'm on the panel with here too. But I think one of the keys is surrounding yourself with good people, and that's a universal solution in all of business in my experience. I've been real fortunate to partner with some really good people, and we set up a culture of teamwork and surround ourselves with good people, and then let them do their job. And the formula has been quite successful for us, and we're very proud of it, and moving forward into 22.
We talked about 22. The first big event, of course, will be the Chili Bowl in early January. We'll let Emmett sell tickets before we're all done here and tell everybody how to get them. Most of the top teams show up at the Chili Bowl with 5, 6, or more entries under their banner. Is that a key to winning at the Chili Bowl, or is that a key to being financially successful as a team at the Chili Bowl? That would be for Richard, Emmett.
Yeah.
we've run as many as 9 cars. I don't think we ever will. But there is a fair amount of statistical luck to be involved. All kinds of things have happened and have happened to our teams by no fault of our own. So to get to the big show, I think the most we put in the big show was 6 a couple of years ago. And, theoretically, you've got that many more chances of winning the race. I'll be honest with you, Emmett, your trophy still keeps me up at night. That's the one I still aspire to. The financial part is that there's absolutely some part to that because there's a fixed cost for bringing a crew to the event, which is a week long. You got to put folks up on the cost side in hotels and feed them and everything. So if you're running a different car each night, you can use the same crew, but it doesn't necessarily apply on Saturday. If you're fortunate enough to get everybody in the show, then it's asses and elbows come feature time. And so you have to bring a few more people than you would just for a single car. But a lot of it just boils down to sharing fixed cost at the end of the day for a week-long event.
Yeah, the trophy that you're talking about, Richard, is called the Golden Driller. It is certainly one of the most prestigious trophies in all of dirt track racing. The closest I've even gotten to getting a Golden Driller is that plastic drink Golden Driller that Emmett fills up with soda for me every year. That's about as close as I'm going to get. Emmett, you told me once that there are 2 seasons for you. There is Chili Bowl season and getting ready for the Chili Bowl. It really is a year-round process, isn't it? Even though it's just a 2-week season of actual racing between the shootout and the Chili Bowl itself.
We really start working on shootout Chili Bowl mid-February. We work on it all year long, and we've been very, very fortunate. I remember Ken Clapp out there in California with NASCAR. I'd never really thought about it until he mentioned it to me several years ago. He said, Emmett, to have a race that's got 300 plus cars be sold out in advance with a waiting list, that's just, when you think about it, it's unbelievable. And I'm just very, very fortunate to be a part of it.
Yeah, it is truly amazing. How long does it take you to prep the facility itself, get all the dirt in? Are you like the folks at Supercross? You store your dirt nearby and bring it in when it's time to go racing?
They keep moving our dirt. We're about 2 miles away now, so our haul's a little bit more. But last year, the county hauled it for us, and they're going to do it again this year, which helps us financially on that end of it. But from the time we start putting cable up and the barriers and start hauling dirt, it takes us about 6 or 7 days to get the racetrack ready to go. 6 or 7 days we could race on it. So we'll start here around the 12th or 13th of December, get through 3 or 4 days before Christmas. Everybody gets to go home. And then we're back on the 26th, and we don't stop till we're on the shootout, start parking them. And used to, the Chili Bowl was, the shootout used to be the biggest parking problem. Now then it's got to be the Chili Bowl was the biggest parking problem. So we, like last 2 weeks ago, we had 1,100 and some entries for the shootout. And Chili Bowl, we just set the entry forms out. But if we don't have bad weather, the shootout Chili Bowl will be the biggest we've ever had.
Incredible. Those are massive numbers. Peter, I'm sure you'd love to see some of those numbers for your back gates at Skagit and down there in California as well. How challenging is it going to be for you to operate 2 racetracks in 2 different states this coming year?
Probably not as hard as, in theory, it shouldn't be that hard, just for the fact that I think we only have maybe 2 or 3 races that overlap one another. And the fortunate thing is as Richard was saying before, I'm surrounded by good people, and I have good people in both places, and you let them do their job, and hopefully it all turns out for the best. So in theory, it shouldn't be that hard, but I'm pretty sure it will get pear-shaped somewhere there.
Skagit has a very rich history. The new facility you bought in Washington State with your partners. How do you balance keeping the history and traditions of Skagit alive while at the same time ushering in a new look, a new vibe to the facility for the fans and the racers?
Obviously it's going to be a work in progress the whole way. I have my theories and what I think how it should be to make it do that. But we can't forget the history of the place, because obviously this year it's going to be the 50th anniversary for the Dirt Cup. I think the track's been there for 65 years, so it's steeped in history, it's steeped in tradition. And like I was saying before, it's not about just reinventing the wheel. And there we go that way. It's not about reinventing the wheel. It's just adjusting some spokes, so to speak, if that makes sense. It's just they have a good product up there, and there's a good product down here, but it's just, I think in our sport, not just these two places, in our sport, we have to be ahead of this curve. We have to be in front of what's going on in the world, basically, with social media and everything like that. So we've got to, the unfortunate thing is our diehard race fans, they're getting older and they're not going to be here forever. So we've got to reintroduce this to a younger generation. We've got to change what we're doing in that respect. So it's going to be a fine line to keep the old and do something new. But again, like I said before, it's just going to be a work in progress the whole way. Some things will work and some things won't. And I'm not afraid to, put my hand up and say, well, that didn't work out and, blame me, but I'm also going to change it and go down the road in a different way, just that little bit, So it's going to be a lot to do, that's for sure.
You and I have had the conversation about 410 sprint car racing on the West Coast, and it's very strong still in California, but you said you want to revitalize it in Washington State. And the Dirt Cup, the Jim Raper Memorial Dirt Cup that you're talking about at Skagit, is their biggest event of the year. It used to be 410s, then it went to 360s. You want it to be 410s again. How do you go about doing that? Is it just by passing it in the rule book, or do you have to do something to encourage the team owners?
Well, the thing is a lot of people seem to think we're just trying to get rid of 360s, which we're not. We're just trying to, back when I first started going up there, you'd go run on a local Saturday night and you'd run a 410 and a 360, like they were together in different races, obviously. But the goal isn't to get rid of the 360s. The goal is just to bring 410s back a little bit. I think we've got something like 13 races for the 360s this year up there, and we've got 9 for the 410s. So to bring the 410s back, you have to crawl before you can walk, before you can run. So it's just reintroducing it a little bit. But then obviously Dirt Cup, it is going back in history. It has been a 410 race its whole life, except just recently. So it's being the 50th anniversary, it just seemed like a good thing to, if we're going to try, let's try. So, like I said, it's going to be the 50th anniversary is going to be, 50 laps. It's going to be pay 50,000 to win. But we have so many more things on offer. We're going to have a little road to Dirt Cup, from starting off at Brad Sweet's place. At Brad Sweet, Kyle Larson, Kobe Copeland have Chico now. We're going to go from there to Cottage Grove the next night, then have a night off, then have another track the next day. Just so it makes it just a little bit more, interesting, for a reason for them to travel, maybe make it a little bit better. And then the fact that, we've already got Australians and New Zealanders texting me, messaging me, wanting to come and be a part of it. We've got 2 teams from New Zealand that want to come and be a part of it. So we get some from Australia, then, who knows, and we're going to have Canadians, the border opens up again. And then, it's just going to hopefully just keep building and, and then, who knows what we'll end up with.
It's really exciting to see for the West Coast racing fans. Richard, you've owned cars and do own cars in midgets, non-wing sprint cars with 410s and 410 wing cars. Financially, how tough is it these days for a team owner? Is one of those categories more doable than another financially?
Well, there's no doubt, Ralph, that the purses are bigger in wing sprint car racing. And you break the balance sheet down, it's kind of like what I alluded to before. You have fixed costs and then you have your variable costs. And I told a lot of people this, for example, when we were shut down for the pandemic, to the extent you keep your crew on board, you've got a race shop, you still have fixed costs whether you're racing or not. And then the variable cost, basically the only thing you're doing is burning tires and engines at that point. Beyond that, Yeah, the purse, there's really two sources or three sources of income if you just break it down real simple at an accounting level. And one of them's purse money, the other sponsorship, and the third, unfortunately, is the back pocket of the owner. So the wing sprint car racing has obviously brought some really big purses gradually over the last few years. Non-wing sprint cars and midgets, not so much. A lot of that venue has grown quite a bit with the participation of fans and whatnot. We have seen some increases in purses in those two venues, but not as much as in the wing sprint car race.
Can you give us a ballpark number for each of those? Say, for example, you were going to go run the USAC Midget Championship and, of course, Chili Bowl as well, but that's a little bit different. The rule book is a little different there. What would it cost you to do that for a season, roughly? Not trying to get too much into your financials, but just a ballpark.
Yeah, you're looking just depending on there's a wide range in all of these sports of what you could spend and actually get it done. Probably the least you could run the full season on the midget side be about $350,000 up to north of $500,000. A lot of that has to do with the amount of equipment that you capitalize with, and capital kind of gets buried in the operating cost of the operation from year to year, depending on, for example, how long your motors and your chassis run. We've run a brand new motor for 5 races and grenaded it. And we've got motors that are 3 or 4 years old now. So that's a great example of the variable part of it that kind of gets buried in the capital. But at the end of the day, a lot of this comes up when sometimes unexpected.
So how different is it then for, say, a non-wing sprint car on the USAC trail or a wing sprint car on the World of Outlaws for a season?
Well, one of the big differences there is just by virtue of the wing itself, you're putting so much more downforce to the racetrack, and that motor is working twice as hard on a wing sprint car. With that said, we usually get about half the number of nights out of the freshen on the engine on a wing team as we do the non-wing. Roughly 10 or so races will freshen the motor on the wing side, and we may get 20 out of a non-wing car. The other part of it is the travel. I mean, the USAC non-wing sprint car series is largely a Midwest-based series. We only go to the West Coast once a year, whereas the World of Outlaws, for example, you run in 90 events coast to coast. Unfortunately, they don't do it in a perfect circle or anything. They zigzag the country. So unfortunately, also with the increase in diesel prices, you throw all that in, and you really have two different animals, the same sport, but on the cost side, you've got a completely different set of metrics there, in my opinion.
Like any good team owner, you're wearing the sponsor's logo proudly on your shirt there. You have a great partnership with the folks at NOS Energy. They've been a big part of your organization for quite a while and a big part of dirt track racing. So as a businessman yourself, when you go trying to hunt sponsorship dollars for dirt track racing, what's the response you get, and how do you go about selling dirt track racing? Are you seeing favorable responses from folks outside of just NOS?
Well, we are, and gosh, there's so many aspects. Call that a loaded question, if you will. But first of all, I want to give props and kudos to my fellow panelists here, the promoters, and kind of alluding to what Peter was saying earlier is the innovation part of this. Creating a new and fresh product on an ongoing basis is a challenge. Obviously, what we bring to the racetrack between the drivers and the equipment and the crew and the kind of show we put on falls on the owners and the team's shoulders quite a bit. But just setting up the right venue and promoting it properly helps us all. I bring that up because that's part of what you're selling to a sponsor is what kind of exposure they're going to get. So these guys that are working overtime as Emmett said, I mean, months and months ahead of time to fill the grandstands and create a marquee event certainly helps us when we go to have that conversation with the sponsors. The other thing I'll note is when we talk to new entrants to the sport or new sponsors, we always ask them, what are you looking for out of this? A lot of them begin as just race fans, and they see the excitement around our sport, which is growing, has been growing for several years now. They see the grassroots community coming up. They see how well the fans can interface with their favorite driver. They like a lot of those aspects. And with that said, that question is answered in many ways. Oftentimes, some of them just want to be a part of the team. Others want to entertain customers. Branding is a big one. That's one we get quite a bit. So you intertwine social media, for example, with what we're creating, and you use that as a metric for how much your outreach is and what are those sponsor dollars really worth. The other thing we're seeing over and over again in sanctioning bodies like USAC, like the World of Outlaws, have done a pretty good job of tracking this. But what we found is that the fans are fiercely loyal to the products that are sponsored or displayed on the side of that race car. That right there is as big of a selling point as I've come across. It's not just a latent picture of a car going by that a certain logo on it or something. People are actually engaged, and they appreciate, if they're a strong fan like me, they appreciate that XYZ company came out of their pocket to take a chance on the sport. It's all symbiotic. It's what keeps it going. And we obviously, unless you just want to keep playing the lottery, all of us have to have sponsors.
Yeah, absolutely. Emmett, you're in a very unique situation. You have an event with the Chili Bowl that is obviously huge. It's a bucket list event. Like I mentioned, everybody wants to see it, but you still have a lot of traditional fans that come each and every year. And I'm sure you hear from them about things that they want to see at the Chili Bowl, whether it's a newfangled something. What types of things are you hearing from the fans? How do you keep a huge event like the Chili Bowl new and exciting each and every year?
Well, I wish I could answer that. My wife's the one that usually gets all them questions, and then she kind of brings them to me. But we've just made minor changes. The one main thing that's happened at the Chili Bowl is the county has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on ventilation in that building. So the air quality in there is 100% better than it was 15 years ago. And that's the number one priority. I know last year we all wore masks, and you hear these people after the Chili Bowl say, well, I'm going to go home and get the Chili Bowl flu. Well, that's one thing I've heard this year. They wore them masks and nobody had no Chili Bowl flu. So I think you'll see some more masks in there when they're racing this year, but it's just been the whole Chili Bowl. Lanny and I both said it. We wasn't smart enough to create it. We just need to be smart enough not to mess it up.
Yeah, well, you guys have done a great job of that.
Yeah, and he was talking about the dirt track fans. I remember years ago down at Charlotte when Humpy was down there, they give us an award or something down there. And I told Humpy that was when the crowd was pretty good, starting to taper off a little bit. And I told Humpy then, I said, you know what, Humpy? I said, what made NASCAR was short track fans. And I said, now then, up there in your stands right now, you're probably 40% dirt track fans and 60% TV fans. And the TV fans are not as near as loyal as our dirt track. So, and I think you've seen this. I know they wasn't real crazy about Kyle going out and racing several years ago. But now then you look on there and it's got HendricksCars.com. And I think some of the NASCAR people is seeing the fact that their driver can go out and run some dirt or pavement, anything on the short track, And I think it's a win-win for the promoters on the short track, and I think it helps NASCAR. So I think that's one thing that's a big plus.
Yeah, absolutely. Got Chase Elliott Racing now, and Alex Bowman and Ricky Stenhouse's numerous NASCAR stars. Santino Ferrucci, the IndyCar driver, has showed up at the Chili Bowl. So it's not just NASCAR drivers. We've seen Ron Capps and Gary Selzy at the Chili Bowl, even drag racers showing up there. So, Emmett, you've seen dirt track racing for numerous decades now. If you had to say there's one reason why it's really coming on strong currently, what do you think it is?
Well, I think the sprint cars and the midgets. I mean, the World of Outlaws is a fantastic show, but I tell you what, the guys with the All Stars up there, I watch them every chance I get, and they got a good quality show. They've got some quality racers in there, and I think when you have that just night after night after night, then that's going to create some fans.
Peter, what's going to be the key for you to attract fans to Skagit and also Keller this summer? I mean, there's so many things that people have to think about with their discretionary income. You got big Marvel movies in the summertime. You've got minor league baseball teams that have built outstanding facilities. There's other stick and ball sports and other racetracks. How do you get them to come to a dirt track?
It's a good question. I think it comes back to what we talked about before, social media, what we do today. It's so far different to what it, used to be done even 10 years ago, 5 years ago. It's changed so much with what you can get on your phone now. Like, it's just bordering on ridiculous what's available. But and the fact is, everyone wants instant results straight away. They want to know everything that's going on. So it's a matter of trying to be on top of that point and do what they want and go down that road. Emmett was saying before, like even like the All-Stars, they put on a good show, and it is a show. And why dirt tracks and short tracks are possibly gaining such popularity is because it not saying anything bad about NASCAR, but NASCAR, it goes for so long. We're talking how many hours does it go for, where like the Chili Bowl is like bang bang, it's the feature race is done in basically minutes in reality. So I think we just got to quicken things up a little bit but be open to the crowd and the fans and family, make it a family atmosphere. And Richard said before, interaction with the drivers to the fans. We can't just have them in the cars and you see the helmets go by. We need them to know what they look like. We need to be able to, shake their hands. At my place down at Hanford, we built the race, when we put the race on at Tulare, we built the grandstand, or not the grandstand, but we built the podium. So it's right there. If you're in row one in the grandstand, we have champagne, we have nice, pretty girls, when the winners get their trophies, and there's old school is going backwards to the champagne. Back in the day, this is what we did all the time. So we brought that back, and if you're in row one, you get covered in champagne, and you're like, oh, I was a part of that. Like you go home, and it changes everything about what you just think of it. Like I think we just got to keep doing them sort of things, just keeping them involved. They've got to be. It's a two-way street. Whatever we can do on the track and preparing a good racetrack for a two-groove racetrack, that's one thing. So we can put on good races. So Richie can turn up and he's got a good racetrack and he can run high or low or whatever, maybe through the middle. But then, like Emmett says, we've got to keep the people on this side of the fence as well. So it's like a tennis match. We've got to do good here to create good for them, but then it just keeps going backwards and forwards, and we cannot sit on what we've done, as in, and sit on our laurels, basically, I'm guessing. We've got to keep advancing and trying and just keeping people excited.
When you hear from your race fans on the local level, are they more interested in the big event, like the Dirt Cup or the Peter Murphy Classic, or are they more interested in a good solid weekly show, or do they want to just see the tours come through like the Outlaws or USAC?
Yeah, that's another good question. Just going backwards a step, when we first started doing my race at Tulare, again, we made it different than what normal stuff is. Like, you know, we brought in the pole shuffle. We had different, if it was a 2-day show, then, you know, what you did the first day worked on for the second day, like so many got locked in maybe to the pole shuffle. And then, you know, wherever you finished in the main, then you started out of 1. If you finished 5th, you know, you weren't locked in, you started out of 1 the next day in the heat, and so on and so on. And then people, and then we moved everything to the middle. Like, again, back in Australia, you know, where back in the World Series sprint car days, you know, they used to, everyone lined up in the middle, and that's where you'd push off for qualifying. And it just, again, it just created atmosphere. So, you know, we try to do something like that. And it's just something I think we're sadly lacking in a lot of our areas that we do. Obviously, I'm trying not to, you know, these guys don't lack in that area, but we need to work on it a lot, though. I think we got to keep the atmosphere, and that's just what we've got to do. We've got to create atmosphere. We just got to keep it moving.
Do you think there's a pain point for the racing fan, for the family of 4 coming to the track?
Yeah, I think for us, we got to change it a little bit. I think, and again, this could be wrong, but my way of thinking right now is we need to make a package deal, like make something all inclusive or something. I'm not sure exactly what to do, but we've got to change it a little bit to make it more inviting for a family. And, you know, again, so we got to do things a little bit different. I'm a big Formula One fan. I love how they do things, and everything's, you know, when they qualify, they've got 15 minutes to qualify the first group, and then some get knocked out, and then down to 10 or whatever, you know. So I think there's so much we can learn from other sports. I think the problem, and it's not that these cats here have this problem, but as a whole, we need to look at other sports. We can't just look at what we do. We can't just look within our sport. We've got to look at, again, Formula One, but we've got to look at Monster Energy Motocross. We've got to, how they do things, it's not laps in heats, it's time and all that kind of stuff. I don't see why we can't do something along them lines to make it so everything we do is more choreographed, done when we're meant to be done. You know, obviously dirt track racing and short track racing, there's so many things out of our control. You know, we just got to try our best and try to be choreographed, I think, and just create a different view of what we're doing.
That's really interesting. Richard, we can't have fans of the grandstands if we don't have cars on the track. When you talk to other successful businessmen, how do you tell them, you know, what do you tell them, maybe is a better question, as to why they should get involved as a potential car owner in open wheel dirt track racing as opposed to stick and ball or another form of motorsports?
Well, I think the root of it, and I'm a little bit jaded on this because I've been a race fan since I was probably a toddler. So it has to start with a love for the sport. One reason being, you're not going to get rich as an owner. It's a great way to, as what do they say in Napa Valley, it's a great way to become a millionaire or show up with 10. I kind of feel that way about racing as well. And no doubt there are owners out there that have done it profitably, but if that's your reason to enter the venue, then I would say you're probably in the wrong place. So this is a sport of passion. Some of the other stick and ball sports economically, like you're talking about, just owning a franchise is a valuable thing. And most people don't realize how few sports franchises actually cash flow. So year in, year out, most of them are not. The limited number of franchises is what keeps the value for like an NFL or a Major League Baseball franchise. Not so much the case in racing. So with that said, a guy with some money, a little bit of knowledge of the sport can buy some race cars, hire some guys to put them together, go hire a rock star driver, and you're in business. So I think I almost want to redirect the question to your passion. You got to be here for the right reasons, and almighty dollar is not it. Yeah.
But we got to have some of that to make it so that you can be there, because obviously the wallet runs out eventually. What's the biggest thing as a car owner that you need right now, or as you look into the future, to stay as involved as you are, what has to happen from the car owner side to keep it viable, not just your passion?
Well, that's a fair question. Obviously, the purses have to be there, especially for a traveling series, where you introduce miles on the road, hotel rooms, meals, that kind of thing. We've got to have a purse, and not just the big number for the winner. We've got to, and I think a couple of the sanctioning bodies have done a good job at this the last couple of years, is getting the purse deeper in the field. Not everybody's going to win the race, obviously, and those to fill a team, the racetrack for the final event, nobody would come watch if there are 8 or 10 cars out there. So we've got to keep those lesser funded teams on the road. So the purse is certainly one part of it. Filling the grandstands and the broadcast and everything is obviously the tip of the iceberg for getting those sponsors excited to sponsor any one of the cars on say a 24 car field. So let's, there's no secret here. This sport costs a lot of money. It is not getting any cheaper. One of the challenges is to keep the purses and somehow keep sponsors spends in line, along with the inflation that unfortunately we're having to deal with in our sport, like everybody else is in their business.
Richard, you and the Clausen Marshall team have done an amazing job when it comes to preparation, presentation, and hospitality. And that's not just corporate hospitality, that's racer friend hospitality when it comes to events like Chili Bowl, Knoxville, even here at the World Finals. The back of your trailer is always open, if you will, for lack of a better way of putting it. How important is that as an organization to set a vibe that way, a feel, an image for what Clausen Marshall Racing is, who the people are, and what you get when you become a part of it?
That's a boy, you got some loaded ones today. I'm having to reconstruct the economics of racing, and now we're into psychology. How about that? No, one of our goals at Clausen Marshall Racing, when Tim Clausen and I got together, was we wanted to maintain a family atmosphere. Chili Bowl is a great example. We've done that since day one when I was involved in it, for a lot of reasons. First of all, you want to make your sponsors feel at home. You want them to be appreciated. You want them to be comfortable as well. As we bring new racers in, and we all know in midget racing, it's more of an entry level venue. We've got younger racers. We want the families to feel welcome also. So those are big elements. The other kind of branching out, like you talk about the nationals or anything, I think networking can't be underestimated in this business like any. It's all about who you know. A great example is our family car. I think we won a feature one night at Devil's Bowl in Dallas, Texas. And who would be there but Raymond Beadle was watching from the grandstands. He shows up in the pits 30 minutes later and he says, that's a great looking race car and y'all are fast as heck. How do I sponsor this car? So, the fact that you never know who's going to be at the races, you never know who's going to walk in and start talking to your team and how you present your team and the vibe you give off. You've got to be ready 100% of the time for that aha moment.
Yeah, absolutely. We're down to the final few minutes here, and I want to go through the cycle once more and make sure I hit on a couple things with each of you. Emmett, first with you. Talk a little bit about ASCS quickly and what's happening there and your efforts to try to keep sprint car racing affordable.
Well, that was what our object was when we started. And of course, everybody I know the year we started in 1992, you could get a knockdown best you could buy from Gertie for $12,500. Now then it cost almost that to freshen them up. So as the cost they've got our 360s. They have to do so much work on them to get the horsepower. The cost on them has escalated a lot. The one thing that we've got is with our 360 and our ASCS, these boys learn how to travel, go up and down the road. Aaron Reitzel was one of them that came from our series. Jason Johnson came from our series. Probably a third of the travelers with the World of Outlaws was in our series at one time or another. You know, Brady Bacon's with USAC. He ran with us for a couple of years. So I think the main thing with the 360 thing is just it's a feeding ground for the other sprint cars. Now, me, to show you how smart I am, I'm a promoter, a track owner, a car owner, and a sanctioning body guy. So but I do want to say one thing. My grandson won the championship on a national deal this year, and I was awful proud of him. And but it's been good. I'm just not the brightest bulb in the box. Now, I did sell ASCS here about a month ago.
Yeah.
And my wife and I had talked about it for the last 2 or 3 years, and I'm not getting any younger. And I didn't have headaches with it, but I just had little bitty things every day on it. And I love to play golf. In fact, when we get through here, I'm going to go back to the golf course. So, but ASCS has been good, and I think it's good for the open wheel sport.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Emmett, put your promoter hat on before you hit the links. Sell me some tickets for the Chili Bowl if the folks want to go. Tell them when it is and how they go about getting the tickets.
It's January the 10th through the 15th. We have Monday, Tuesday tickets available. We have moved our Race of Champions up to Monday. I could tell you, I shouldn't even tell you why we moved it to Monday. NASCAR has practice on Tuesday and Wednesday. So it's going to make a long day Monday because we do practice Monday and then run a full show, plus going to run the Race of Champions. But Monday and Tuesday tickets, but we never sell out of pit passes. We got a lot of big screens around there. We got probably 1,500, 2,000 seats for seating for pit people. So you can see the show and smell the fumes.
I look forward to that part. Peter, let's talk quickly. Go ahead and tell me how folks can come see you at your two facilities and what's on the calendar that they should mark down.
Obviously, definitely my race, the Peter Murphy Classic, which is going to be in May 13 and 14. It's going to be at 2 tracks. So again, it's going to be at Tulare the first night and then at Hanford the next night. So that'd be the one to come down here. And then obviously the Road to Dirt Cup starting off at Chico and then Cottage Grove. And then we're working on another track to get it up there. And then obviously 3 nights at Skagit. So it should be pretty good. Just go to our websites, both of them, and you'll find where to go, how to get there.
Well, save me a pass. I can't wait to come to the Dirt Cup and see it. And Richard, I know you don't have any tickets to sell, but I do want to talk quickly with you about what you do with the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Priority Aviation, your company there, and how you have set up this sponsorship situation that engages the racer and the fan, and it helps get money for the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame.
Well, I share one thing in common with Emmett. I'm not sure I'm the brightest bulb in the box because I kind of got the idea from others. We were at a charity event, actually that Brian Clausen helped start a few years back, and they handed buckets to the drivers and said, 1, 2, 3, go out into the crowd at the event, and whoever could raise the most money in the next hour or so gets a prize. And I thought, well, that's a pretty hot idea. And it was all about the favorite driver winning whatever. But it was a great way for the drivers to engage their fans. So there was a couple of goals there, but the real tip of the spear was the ongoing fundraising campaign for the Brian Clausen Sweet Tower, which is the #1 source of income for that nonprofit. And so we poured our heart and soul into that, keep the Hall of Fame and the museum sustainable. That's part of it. And So we've really enjoyed that engagement and a lot of the stories and the creative competition that's come out of that. And I think it's another good example, like I think Peter said, how important it is for the fans and the drivers to be able to interact. So it's unfortunate this last year that we chose not to do it in 20 with COVID. Just wasn't appropriate. We didn't even know what we would have come nationals, if we would have a nationals, that type of thing. So it's I've just some of the personal one-off stories that we've heard about how people, the drivers engage their fans is what really, in a lot of ways, made it more worth it for me than anything.
Well, thank you. And thank you, all three of you, for being a part of this. Based on what I'm seeing on the clock, I think we're done. I don't know if our friends at EPARTRADE are going to jump in and just turn the mics off on us. Or...
No, we won't.
There we go.
We could listen for another hour. We could.
Well, I got a whole bunch of other things I'd like to ask these guys, but I know we have other panelists to get to.
Well, no, but
Ralph, we'll have to do this again, beginning of next year on a Wednesday.
Sounds great.
The concept for EPARTRADE is basically, in my opinion, there's a big hole in the internet. So the internet started many years ago, but there's never been an online business community for racers on the World Wide Web. The need for EPARTRADE is actually quite obvious. Basically, people in the business of auto racing need a place online to hang out and to get their problems solved.
It's extremely simple for a buyer or for a supplier to interact on the platform. The first thing you need to do is sign in, which is free. And the second thing is, when you see a product that you're interested in, all you need to do is click on request more information. If it's a company, you click on request more information, and then from there, it is forwarded directly to the buyer or to the supplier.
You can go to epartrade.com, you become part of a community of businesses in racing, and it makes sourcing products much easier than just on the internet or using Google.
At EPARTRADE, there is no e-commerce. It's literally a connection just like at a trade show. So now, any time of the year, a buyer could reach out to a supplier through an email.
More than that, it's a place to go just to keep current every day. So it's a good place to start your workday in your racing business or in your offices of your professional race team. And you know you're current when it comes to new technology, industry news, technical papers, technical videos, all of that and more. We're not looking for a million hits per day. All we want is people who are really the volume buyers of racing products in the racing industry to be part of the little world of EPARTRADE. We have racing businesses participating from around the world. So you get suppliers from around the world, you get buyers from around the world.
EPARTRADE really eliminates having to travel, closing down your shop. Now you have a place to showcase globally your racing product and technology.
There are two types of people, racers and everyone else. Racer Magazine is for those who believe that racing is a way of life. Racer embodies the excellence that defines a sport driven by passion, courage, and ingenuity. Get 1 year of both Racer's print and digital edition for only $39 with instant access to our entire digital issue archive. Subscribe now at info.racer.com.